Today we are going to review an interesting tracked ATV, which is quite affordable by the way. We'll find out its pros and cons, and we'll try to drive it straight to a lake. Sink or swim. Stay with us, it's going to be interesting, let's go! Hi guys, as usually it's me, just a voiceover, you are watching Review Machines, and today we have got this cool little ATV, which is called Pellets. It was quite a job to get the thing for review, cause the manufacturer doesn't produce many of them. For all that, we managed to find this new quite interesting piece of machinery. You may ask, why it is so interesting? Well, make your own judgment. We have a real tracked all-terrain vehicle with powerful 2-cylinders engine, and the price is only about $6,000. On one hand, it's rather a lot, I agree. But on the other hand, let's remember how much unusual quad is. Even Chinese CF motor nowadays costs about 10,000. So today we'll try to find out if this ATV is worth its money. First of all, let's look at some technical details. The base here is a waterproof body with a robust frame inside. The engineers deliberately decided to make a body of a steel. It's clear that it would have been cheaper to use plastic, but a steel body is much stronger, and it easily can sustain serious bumps against stones, logs and so on. The body is painted with a special protective coating against rust and scratches. The flip side of a steel body is a heavy weight. The vehicle weighs about 500 kilos. The standard engine has half a liter displacement and 22 HP, but we have here a more powerful one. It's 2-cylinders engine with 33 HP. As to the transmission, there are both a manual gearbox and variator. They work together. The width of the tracks is 380 mm. Also there is a suspension system which provides a smooth driving. An interior is quite unassuming. 2 seats one behind another, and the steering looks like a quad's handlebar. It's the simplest. There is a throttle and a brake, that's all. Well, it's enough of theory, it's high time to practice. Let's find out if this vehicle is so effective as it seems. Firstly, let's ride on a quite flat road and learn about the maximum speed. According to the specs, it's 45 km per hour. But we could reach only 30 km per hour, maybe because the road turned out to be much worse than we expected. On really flat ground, I think we would be able to hit 40 km per hour. Anyway, the official spec slightly overestimates its maximum speed. As to the maneuverability, it's perfect. But I should say, it's perfect at any skid steering vehicle, so it wasn't a surprise. Now it's time to leave this road and go to the dirt. Our ATV is cut out for it, isn't it? One of the good features of the vehicle is wide tracks and suspension. 380mm tracks, it's quite decent for such a small ATV. That results in the possibility to overcome deep snow and loose ground. But it's just a theory, let's see what we have on practice on sandy ground. By the way, I like how the suspension works. It's very simple system, but works quite efficiently. Each roller has his own spring, and that provides a smooth driving. Although there is no any shocks, but it's common practice not to use shocks in suspension system of the tracks. Also the tracks themselves can dump down any swinging. You can see now how it works and how it absorbs any roughnesses of the road. As I mentioned, there are 5-range gearbox, but you choose a gear before driving. If it is going to be a tough off-road, choose first or second gear. If the road is quite decent, choose a higher gear. The engine is rather powerful. 33 HP is enough for such a small vehicle, but I should say that diesel engine would be perfect here. As far as I know, there is such modification of this ATV, but they are quite rare to be come across. Due to the tracks, the vehicle has a very good traction. It easily moves there, whereas 4 wheels would probably get stuck. Power of the engine seems to be enough to overcome any off-road. Sometimes the vehicle jumps rather high because of the spring suspension and lack of shocks, but for the most part it's rather comfortable to ride on this ATV. Now we try to move through the site with loose sand. Certainly it wasn't a problem at all for the ATV. It can easily move and turn around here. Frankly speaking, a tracked ATV has to overcome much more serious obstacles, but it was very hard to find some dirt in that season. And there is something that I didn't like. The body is rather short, and sometimes on slopes the vehicle tilts dangerously, so you must be very careful with throttle and brakes when riding on slopes. Now will be my favorite part of any hour video – testing the vehicle myself. First thing that I noticed, it was quite a job to get in. You should be quite flexible and dexterous, but it's just a matter of practice, and after several attempts it won't be a trouble anymore. The steering is the simplest. Just choose a gear, push the throttle and go. But you should know that it's quite sensitive. Don't turn the handlebar abruptly. Just push it lightly, and all the maneuvers will be smooth and predictable. Especially you should be very cautious when you are moving fast, because if you turn the handlebar harshly, the vehicle may easily roll over. That is why all such ATVs are equipped with an anti-roll cage, and you must wear a helmet riding this vehicle. Generally, after some little practice, I liked how the thing moves and responds to the steering. Especially I love maneuverability of this little dozer. It can easily turn around literally on the spot, and such a feature may do a lot of good on off-road and help you to avoid many traps. As to the suspension and how smooth it works, well, of course, a quad with Fox podium shocks impressed me much more greatly. But here it is quite decent, especially taking into account the price of this ATV. By the way, there is another important advantage of the vehicle. The engine and all other gears are mounted inside the waterproof body. In this way, theoretically, we can try to float on this thing. But we should remember that the vehicle weighs about 500 kilos, plus the weight of the rider and some cargo. So result is unpredictable. But let's try! Sink or swim! Well, undoubtedly it is a success. We are floating. Where are the fishing rods? Seriously speaking, the manufacturer states in the specs that this vehicle is a real amphibious ATV, so this floating wasn't a surprise for us. But as you can see, the draft makes us to move on water very cautiously, so if there are some waves, you had better not go on water. Besides, without an additional boat motor, it moves so slowly. It's very easy to nod off. The maximum speed on water is 3 km per hour, so one is recommended to take an oar on board. It will definitely help to move faster. Anyway, this possibility of the vehicle to overcome water obstacles is a great advantage, cause any quad will stop here. And we are moving. Slowly, but nevertheless, we are moving. There is every reason to believe that this ATV Pellets is quite a decent all-terrain vehicle taking into account the price. This vehicle in a way can replace a quad and a sled and even a boat, and the price is just $6,000 for real tracked ATV. It's reasonable to my mind, but you should remember that there are some drawbacks. It's not very stable on slopes, and the steering is very sensitive at high speed, though undoubtedly it has more advantages than drawbacks. I spoke about them all the way, so let me not repeat them. Well, I think it's time to wrap it up. Thanks for watching, guys. Please consider subscribing if you like this video. It will be many more interesting materials here. Goodbye.